Hello, welcome. I'm really excited to be here with you today. My name is Chad McGehee, and I am a meditation teacher. And honestly, sometimes when I say that, I think people expect robes or tie-dye or chanting, maybe some candles, maybe even think I'm going to do some levitating. Well, that is not who I am, nor is that what we are going to do today. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to explore how meditation training can be a support for your performance and your well-being. And in particular, we're going to be exploring mindfulness, both the science and the training of how to be more grounded, more resilient, more present, more creative. And I'm really looking forward to doing this with you today, as I know that each of you is interested in finding ways to have an edge, both in your performance and in your overall life. First, let me tell you just a bit about me. I first came to meditating over 15 years ago, and I'd like to be honest with you about my story. I came to mindfulness and meditation out of challenge and suffering in my own life. And I wanted a way to meet my life directly. I didn't want to run from it. I didn't want to hide from it. And I had this sense that if I could meet my life directly, it would be worth it. And it was mindfulness and meditation, not only the frameworks, but also the day-to-day skills of meeting my life exactly as it was that made me realize that I had inner skills that I wasn't even aware. And after years of a personal practice, I felt like I was sitting on a gold mine. I had to find ways to see if others could benefit from this training that I was benefiting from so much. At the time, I was working as a public school teacher, and I started sharing with kids and teachers, and the benefits were clear. Calmer, more focused students, grounded, happier teachers, and I was hooked. The path ahead of me was clear. How can I make meditation training accessible and useful to those who are interested? And that has led me all the way to my current work as the first ever director of meditation training in major college sports. Everything we're going to do today is grounded in the lives of people who defy the stereotypes of meditation. The insights that I'm going to share with you come from years of experience working with kids and teachers, working with law enforcement officers at the local, state, national levels, working with corporate groups, and also working with athletes, both retired professional athletes as well as active athletes. And everything we're going to explore today is grounded in rigorous science. So I spent 6 years working at the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I remain affiliated with this group. The Center for Healthy Minds has 14 PhD level scientists, all working around this central question of what constitutes a healthy mind. How can we use the methods of modern neuroscience to understand what it takes to increase well-being and reduce suffering? And all of these things that these groups that have in common is they're all interested in upending the mental training paradox. How many times have you heard about the importance of the mental game? How many times have you trained for it? For most of us, not that much. And it's usually because we don't know how. And today I'm going to share with you some insights on how to train your mind. And I've learned these insights from working at the intersection of modern neuroscience and the lived experience of elite performers. And the starting place for all of this is the simple neuroscientific truth of neuroplasticity. So this is a truth that our brains are constantly changing. In other words, our brains are constantly being rewired. The question is, who is in charge of this process? Is it the swirling winds of circumstance? Or do we take more responsibility for our own minds? So the invitation here is to put ourselves back in the driver's seat, to train our minds to be an ally for the inevitable ups and downs of a day, of a week, of a life. So where to begin? Today, we're going to begin with a foundational skill that can make a profound difference in your life, in your performance, and in your well-being. And this is the skill of mindfulness. Today, we'll spend some time talking about some of the science around mindfulness. We'll do a bit of practice, and then we'll talk about how this can show up in your daily life. So let's start with some really interesting science. A group at Harvard did a study where they sent people text messages. The first question was, what are you doing? The second question was, what are you paying attention to? So what do you think? What percentage of time do you think people are paying attention to what they're doing? Or how about you? What percentage of time are you paying attention to what you're doing? Well, what they found was that people are paying attention to what they're doing 47% of the time. Think about that. Think about the implications. That means we're literally paying attention only to half of our lives. And I know you've had that experience. I know you've had that experience when you're reading something and then you get to the end of the page and you have no idea what you read. Or a teacher is talking and a few minutes later, you have this realization you have not been tracking along with anything that they've been sharing with you. I mean, I'd even like to think that what I'm sharing today is so compelling that you've been with me every moment of the way, but that just hasn't happened. Your attention has wandered off. But there's good news. You can train this skill. You can train on having your attention be where you want it to be. And imagine the implications. First, you'd save time because you wouldn't have to reread that page that you missed the first time. But think about your relationships. You'd be more present for the conversations with the people in your life. Or in sport, how often do we say things like one play at a time? And again, what we're doing here is we're actually developing the skills to be able to do that. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to check out one of the foundational practices to train this skill. We'll do a mindfulness practice together. And this is exactly the sort of practice that I would start off when I'm working with cops, with athletes, or corporate groups. So I invite you to get in a posture that feels comfortable for you. You could be seated, could be standing, could be lying down, could be walking. Whatever posture you're in, I invite you to bring about two qualities. I invite you to feel relaxed and alert. I'm just shifting now, and you can shift throughout the practice. You don't have to be still in the practice. You don't get extra points for being a meditation statue. Just finding that middle ground of what does relaxed and alert feel like for you right now. For this practice or for any practice, your eyes can be open or closed, whatever is comfortable for you. Either way, I invite you to let your eyes relax a little bit. Now I invite you to bring awareness to your feet, to the sensations that are happening in your feet. You're noticing contact with the ground. You're noticing tingling. You notice temperature, warm or cool. Doesn't matter what the sensations are, just noticing what's happening in your feet right now. And then shifting to your seat, where your body is maybe making contact. Noticing a sense of heaviness, maybe a sense of lightness. You're noticing your clothes are making contact with your body. Just noticing the immediacy of the sensations. I invite you to shift to your jaw. And in this practice, we're not trying to make anything different, while at the same time, we may notice that things change all on their own. Just aware of the sensations in your jaw. Maybe sensations in your shoulders, or anywhere else where you commonly store some tension. And then shift awareness to your breathing. Simply feeling your breath moving in and out of your body. You don't have to go get the breath, it's already here. It's more of a resting back onto the natural rhythm of your own breathing. And for the next few moments, give yourself permission that all you have to do is sit here or lie here and feel your body breathing. And if it hasn't happened already, it will happen that your mind will wander off to the future, to the past, to some random memory. It's not a problem when your mind wanders. The moment you notice your mind has wandered, there's a little bit of space. That space is mindfulness. And in that space, you can choose what to do with your attention. And in this practice, you're choosing to bring your attention back to this breath as it's moving in and out of your body. And as we come to the end of this base training practice, just taking a moment to check in, notice how things are for you. How things are for you in your body, sensations throughout your body. How things are for you emotionally in your emotional body. How things are for you in your mind, activity, thoughts in your mind. And however it is fine. There's no right or wrong experience. We're just curious, just noticing what happens as a result of paying attention in this way. Eyes closed, you can open them, you can move your body any way you'd like. So one of the powerful things that we can do in meditation training is not only do the practice, but take a little bit of time to reflect on that practice. So to do that, I really like this paradigm from John Dewey of experience plus reflection equals learning. So we just had an experience together. Now we'll take a few moments to reflect on it. And the result of that is learning. And it's not the sort of learning that comes kind of in a didactic way, as if we could read a book and understand how all of this works. It's the sort of learning that comes from paying attention to your own experience, to your own mind and body, and seeing what's true for you. So what'd you notice? Just what happened? This question is inherently non-judgmental. There's no right, there's no wrong. Just what did you notice? What happened for you in your body, sensations, emotionally? What happened in your mind? Just bring a real sense of curiosity to what happened. And what do you think might happen if you did a practice like this regularly? How might it impact your performance? How might it impact your well-being? Think about how this could show up for you academically, athletically, musically, in any of your pursuits, including in your personal life. What might the impacts be? I'd like to call out a few that are common experiences, some of which you may have had today. So how many of you noticed that you were carrying some tension in your jaw, your shoulders, or somewhere else? It's so common. We tend to carry around so much tension and we're just completely unaware of it. So do you think you would perform better in school and sports as a musician if you were 10% more relaxed? Almost every elite athlete I know emphatically answers this question, yes. And what you just did in this training was you trained for the ability to do that. You trained for the ability to toggle your awareness, to toggle where you're at on the optimal zone of performance so that you can be right where you want to be. Anyone feel a little more focused, a little less distracted? We call this the eye of the hurricane. And of course, in the eye of the hurricane, the eye has a sense of stability, balance, groundedness, while the storm rages all around. And that's what you just trained for, was to be in the eye of the hurricane. And of course, you have experienced this. You know what this feels like. You've had those experiences where you're okay, you're balanced, you're grounded, even though it may be crazy around you. But for most of us, it seems random when we experience that. It's great when it's there, it's a bummer when it's not. What we're doing here is training to experience it more often. Anybody's mind wander? Of course. It happens to all of us. This is probably the biggest myth and misconception about mindfulness and meditation is somehow we're trying to empty the mind or kind of bliss out with no thoughts. That's just straight not possible. The skill here is to notice things as they're happening and choosing what we want to go with. Some of it we want to let go by. Some of it we may want to stick with. We're choosing where to put our attention. And every time in this practice that your mind wandered off and you brought it back to the breath where you want it to be, you gained skills in training the muscle of your attention. It's like doing a rep for that mental attention muscle. Remember that 47%? Every time your mind wandered off and you brought it back, you bumped that number up a little bit. And of course, as we continue to do that, the performance and well-being impacts cascading. How about anyone feel a little bit more present? Just a little more here, your mind and body actually in the same place. Former NFL head coach Tom Coughlin has this great line, be where your feet are. And that's what you just trained. In life, we say things all the time like take it a day at a time. In sports, we say things like one play at a time. What you just did was train for this skill. So they're not just words that we're saying, but there's an actual skill set for you to be able to do. So hopefully some ideas are starting to come up for you, ideas on how this sort of training could be helpful for you in your life. A few things might be like staying grounded in conversations, whether they're pleasant conversations that you're really enjoying that you want to be there for, or challenging conversations, difficult conversations. And I know each of you is going into classrooms and having really frank, sincere discussions with your peers. This can be a support for you to really be grounded, present, open, and stable during those conversations. Anyone ever get anxious before a test, before a game, before a performance? Of course you do. It happens to all of us. Anxiety is one of these things that is just an emotion that all of us experience. How might doing a practice like this help you to work with that anxiety so that it doesn't topple over and instead allows you to feel grounded so that you can go crush it in whatever it is that you're doing next? How about this? You ever reach for your phone kind of completely mindlessly, not even aware that you're reaching for it, and you're just scrolling without any sense of purpose as to why you're doing it? Well, this space that we just practiced in this mindfulness training allows us to choose. Is now the time that I want to go for my phone, or is now the time that I want to choose to do something else? How about this? You ever lay awake at night? It's midnight, and your mind is just like a freight train, 1,000 miles an hour, just spinning around. Again, it happens to all of us. And what's happening here is typically we're lost in thoughts. We're lost in that storm of thinking. But what if you could train your attention to come back to be where you want it to be, namely awareness of the body at 12 o'clock at night, because your body's tired. And if you're aware of what's going on in your body can naturally fall asleep. Or just in general, recovering more quickly from the events of life, whether it's a challenge or a great thing. We can't stop life from happening just because we choose to meditate. But what we can do is choose to recover more quickly, be more grounded, be more present for the moment that is in front of us. Or just in general, just showing up more fully to the life in front of you, living life in a more grounded, more open, more courageous way. But of course, if we want these skills, we can't just hope for it. We have to actually train for it. So what does that look like? How do we go about doing that? Well, I like to think about meditation training in 3 different levels. The first level is base training. So if we think about meditation training like strength conditioning for the mind, well, then we need to set aside some time to actually develop the skills and train for the qualities that we're interested in. So you might be wondering, like that practice we just did a few moments ago, that's a great example of a base training practice. We took a couple minutes to train the mind for the qualities of stability, focus, awareness, groundedness. So you may think to yourself, well, how often should I do it? The real answer is scientifically, we do not know. This is an open question that we'll continue to explore over years. But what we do know is the best meditation is the one you'll actually do. So I invite you to start small. We're not looking for major life overhauls here. What we're doing is just checking it out and seeing what happens. And the benefits of practice is what will keep you coming back for more. So the next level after base training is what I call integrated practices. So integrated practices are quick, easy ways to bring these qualities of mind and body into our daily life. It could be as simple as something like the 4-5-6 breath. So the 4-5-6 breath, you breathe in for 4, hold for 5, blow out for 6. Think about where that could show up in your life before a test, before a performance. I know this is a practice that a lot of folks that I've trained with have used, including those that are still using it while they're in the NFL, whether it's pre-snap, before the weight room, before a film session, transition from the day before they're with their family. Lots of ways to use a practice like this. Or a simple appreciation practice. There's so much good that's happening in the world, even amidst all the challenge that is there. So an appreciation practice is simply noticing some of those good things. So even so far today, I invite you right now to reflect for a moment. What are some of the good things that have happened today? Maybe you had some good food. Maybe you got a funny text message. Maybe you just got a decent night of sleep. Simply bringing your awareness to some of these good things that have happened in your day and savoring it. Being aware of what it feels like in your body as you think about some of these good things that are happening in your life. And lastly, spontaneous presence. So spontaneous presence is when these qualities of mind just start to show up all on their own. And in some sense, this is one of the goals of practice. We do the base training, the integrated practices, so that they just start to show up more spontaneously. We don't meditate to become great meditators. We meditate to have great lives. We want these qualities to show up throughout all aspects of our day-to-day life. All right, so we've covered some terrain today. But as one of my favorite teachers says, one of the greatest gifts of all of mindfulness and meditation is learning to begin again without rumination or regret. So here you are. See if you can feel your body sitting. See if you can feel your breath moving in and out. Notice sounds that are happening. Sights you may be aware of. And through all of it, here you are, breathing, stable, present. At any moment, able to access that eye of the hurricane. So what we have explored today is a key foundational piece to train your mind for performance and well-being, the skill of mindfulness. This is a skill whose application continues to spiral up as you keep training. It's also a skill that becomes foundational to help you deepen your meditation training as you're ready to develop other skills to further expand your mental game. Think about it like physical exercise. If you work out a few times in a few ways, that's great. If you continue to work out regularly over months, maybe even years, and you grow with new skills, the benefits are even more deeper and sustained. So that's where I want to leave us today. 40 or 50 years ago, elite athletes weren't lifting weights. They thought it would make them bulky, heavy, kind of wear their bodies out. Now we realize that a few athletes started to do it. A little bit of science started to point to the benefits of practice. And now, of course, we know that weight training is essential for any elite performer, and it's also part of just living a general healthy life. So I think what we talked about today is going to be on a similar trajectory. Some folks, like you, are getting interested. Some science is starting to point to the benefits of practice. In another 10 or 15 years, these practices are going to be just as commonplace as it is to train the body today. So now that you know that, what are you going to do? So I really appreciate you taking the time to train, to explore with me today. I wish you have a wonderful rest of your day. And hopefully on the other side of this, we can connect in person and keep our training going. Have a great day. Talk to you later.